Graphic audio. A movie in your mind.
Wayne Manor, Bristol, September 21st, 1947.
Damn it, boy, stand up!
Thomas Wayne shrank from the voice. It was a reflex ingrained in him. In all his 15 years of life, that flinch had been as natural as breath, as unthinking as a blink.
That's no way to hold a gun!
Patrick Wayne was a big man in a big town, with strong white hands that Thomas had no doubt had bent and shaped the very steel that formed the foundations of Gotham City. The column of yellow light from the old man's handheld flashlight hurt the boy's eyes.
Grip the stock by the trigger with your right hand so you can lift the barrel up by the forestock. And for hell's sake, hold it across your body with the barrel down.
Thomas dutifully repositioned his hold on the shotgun. His hands were shaking so violently he was afraid he would drop it. Sweat was pooling between his shoulder blades beneath his collared shirt and sweater vest, despite the damp chill of the cave. Some part of his mind registered the fact that his new jeans would be ruined. It was a diversion of his mind. He sensed what was coming next. The big hand slammed into Thomas's back, propelling him forward into the cavern. The young man hated the dark. The unseen cavern walls and roof pressed down on him. He hunched up his shoulders, drawing tighter within himself.
Hell or high water, boy. I'm gonna make a man out of you.
Thomas knew the mix better than the cocktails his mother had him make for her every evening, and of late, in the afternoons as well. His father had achieved balanced parts of rage and liquor, soured with a twist of disappointment. It never mattered where it came from. Who or what had set the old man off was irrelevant. All that mattered now was that Thomas had become the focus of his father's displeasure, again. His own manhood had been somehow threatened, and now manhood would be impressed upon his son at any cost.
It's kill or be killed out there, not like that comic book world you live in. And by God, you're gonna learn how to kill today, son. You're gonna kill something.
He could hear them. It was afternoon, and he had disturbed their rest. The dim light from the failing batteries in his father's flashlight reflected in 1,000 pairs of eyes blanketing the ceiling above them. The bats were at home beneath Wayne Manor, and in their coming, Patrick and his son had upset the quiet balance in the cavern between the world above and the world below.
Get on with it, boy.
Thomas couldn't stop his hands from shaking. He tried to raise the barrel of the shotgun, but the foreign thing felt impossibly heavy, and he could not will his arms to move. Tears stung his eyes, welling out and spilling down his cheeks in the darkness.
I can't.
What did you say, boy?
Thomas could feel the massive presence of his father looming up behind him as the dimming flashlight shifted in his hands.
Speak up, boy!
He froze, but Thomas knew disobedience would only make it worse.
I can't.
You can't? You're the descendant of knights who fought in the Crusades. Waynes who participated in every battle fought in or about America. Given their blood for this country, we build the weapons that make this country strong and great, and you tell me you can't?
Thomas lay on his back. He could taste his own blood from the corner of his mouth, where Patrick's ring had dragged as it drove him to the ground. The sight of his face would sting for a while, but the pain in his soul would never diminish, only be compounded. The shotgun lay across his body, his eyes closed against the darkness of the cavern around him, the deeper darkness of his father standing over him, the watchful darkness of the bats beyond. The big hand, the strong hand. Thomas felt the gathering of his collar at the back of his neck, dragging him to his feet. The hand of Patrick Wayne held his son in an iron grip, dragging their faces within inches of each other. The flashlight flickered as it shone upward, casting both their faces in heavy contrasting shadows. Thomas stared into the eyes of his father.
You're a Wayne, boy! There are only two types of people in the world, the hunters and the hunted. And you had better make up your mind right now that you're going to hunt. I won't allow the empire I've built to be taken apart by the government, and I sure as hell won't turn it over to a bookworm son with a head full of comic books and no stomach for survival. Be a man! Show me you're a man! Use this. Kill something.
Thomas stopped shaking. His eyes suddenly focused and unblinking. His lips split apart, revealing clenched teeth. His hands gripped the stock without thinking.
Show me!
Thomas turned, raising the shotgun up in a quick motion as he had seen his father do a dozen times on the skeet range behind the manor. The barrel crossed Patrick's face in its arc. Thomas froze, the barrel wavering on his father's face. He could make it stop. He could pull this trigger and make him stop. His father would go away and stop hurting him, hurting Mother, hurting anyone. Everything would be better if... But the boy's finger did not move.
What are you waiting for, boy? Do you think they'll wait for you? Do you think they would hesitate a moment if they were after you? Go on, son. Kill them. Kill them before they kill you.
Thomas's hands began to shake once more.
Kill them!
The recoil slammed the gun butt into the boy's shoulder, and he stumbled awkwardly against the mass of his father behind him. The walls of the cavern vanished in the flow of leather wings.
Again, boy! Do it again!
Thomas felt the hand on his shoulder, the steel-bending hand. He had no choice.
Graphic Audio presents DC Comics Batman Wayne of Gotham by Tracy Hickman. Copyright 2013 DC Comics. All related characters and elements are trademarks of and copyright DC Comics. Batman created by Bob Kane. Narrated by Richard Rowan. With performances by Richard Cutting, Terrence Aselford, James Konachek, Elizabeth Jernigan, David Jordan, Danny Gavigan, Margie Tompros, Gabriela Fernandez Coffey, Barbara Pinellini, Nora Ashrati, Scott McCormick, Casey Platt, Yasmin Twazon, Gregory Gorton, Dylan Myers, Patrick Bussink, Matthew Bassett, Susan Linsky, David Coyne, Christopher Sheeran, Jonathan Watkins, Michael John Casey, and Tracy Lynn Oliveira.
Aparo Park Docks, Gotham, 1:12 a.m., present day.
You can't run, you can't hide.
Batman dropped down onto the square of cement, landing in a strong crouch, his cape settling around him. It softened his silhouette in the darkness, his right fist pressed against the ground, and he raised his head.
Come out, wherever you are.
It was a nightmare landscape, dragged from an M.C. Escher drawing. Iron stairs leading away from the small cement balcony where he'd landed, connected in impossible ways with still other stairs. The mind-tortured stairs led to more landings and more impossible stairs, a cascade of metalworks extending into infinite space. Hooded work lights hung at cross angles from one another. Their feeble rays barely illuminated the shadowed figures that stood beneath them. Some were on opposite sides of the same stairs, as though gravity were a matter of personal perspective. Their shadowy outlines twisted nervously in the dark. Revolver, automatic, shotgun, rifle. A variety of weapons pointed at bizarre angles into the space. Each was different and each was alike in important aspects. Nervous hands held them. Nervous fingers twitched on the triggers. An image flashed through his mind of another time and place, far away, yet never far from him. Joe Chill's hands didn't shake. They were steady as granite, his eyes as relentless as a glacier. Batman settled lower into his crouch. The Batsuit was new, and he was pleased at the response. It was essentially a form of power armor, although its ability to deflect damage had yet to be field-tested. The exterior of the Batsuit still used a light variation of the Nomex Kevlar weave, but gratefully much of the weight had been shed by dropping the armor plating. In its place now was a complex set of exomusculature beneath the exterior weave. It was his muscle Batsuit, one that could artificially enhance his natural movements and strength. The bidirectional neurofeedback loop maintained a dynamic stability that was tied at once into both the voluntary and involuntary neural responses from his body. That he could use the erectoris palorum on his body hair as a neural source for control was all the more convenient. The electroactive polymers were liquid-bound ionic EAPs, which kept the voltage low throughout the Batsuit and the heat generation at a minimum. Kevlar was always passive. This Batsuit had an active defense, a blast ion charge reacting to force trauma. The downside was that the Batsuit could bleed if it didn't react quickly enough. The Batsuit could die on him. He could die in the Batsuit. A smile played on his lips at the thought. What a wonderful symmetry. The cape shifted around him. Its fabric was of the same reactive polymer material and moved as though it too had a will of its own. It shifted around him as a living thing. Its original purpose had been as a heat sink for the exomusculature, but the ever-inventive and adaptive mind of Bruce Wayne had found other creative uses for the cape. Batman raised his head, searching the mad maze stretching to infinity in all directions. Time slowed as he set up the game in his mind. The pieces were clearer to him now. He set each of them up in his mind to evaluate and strategize.
Julian Masters.
Anchorwoman for the WGXX News at 11. She robbed 4 banks in 3 days, walked out each time. Everyone thought she was covering the stories. Turned out she was the story. She held the automatic sideways and steady. When she moved the muzzle, it stopped rock solid. The 9mm cannon in her arms appeared to be an old friend to her.
Baron Petrov,
head of the Diamond Exchange, led the investigation into the thefts throughout the Diamond District. Nobody thought to look in his bags. Assault rifle with cover and good firing position. Clear field covering all the platforms between regardless of their orientation. Hand unsteady. No marksman and unfamiliar with a weapon. 3 or 4 shots before he found his mark on a stationary target. Batman continued to catalog the obstacles between him and his opponent on the other side of the twisted board. Whom he sought was obvious to him. Spellbinder, the former Faye Moffat, had somehow managed to get a release from Arkham Asylum 6 weeks before and promptly vanished. Faye wasn't the first to take on the Spellbinder racket. She had learned the hypnotism powers from her lover and the previous Spellbinder, a third-rate criminal by the name of Delbert Billings. She won the title after retiring Delbert with a shot through the head. Now she had used her talents to convince a number of the upstanding citizens of Gotham to do her robbery for her. Again. Old story, not even an interesting one. Just a test of the new Batsuit, with a walk in the park. He continued listing off the opponents in his mind. Angel Jane Montgomery, socialite with a shotgun. William Raymond, fireman with a full automatic. Diana Alexandra, pop music celebrity with a grenade launcher. James Gordon. Gordon would require some finesse. Batman closed his eyes. The cowling over his head was also new. Using it had required considerable training, but it had been worth the trouble. The sensors at the edge of the cowl eye openings read his eye closure, activating a subsonic imaging system, like the sonar of a bat, that communicated directly to an implant connected to his optic nerve. The image was still unclear in its details, but he had adapted to it, and it gave him a field of vision that he could interpret 3-dimensionally in all directions around him. It was like having eyes in the back, side, and front of the head, a tactical awareness that extended in all directions.
Justice is blind.
The sonar imager had one additional advantage. It was based on sound, and the light-bending illusions of Spellbinder's funhouse would vanish.
Too easy.
He sprang, the synthetic muscles of the Batsuit enhancing his powerful legs. He shot across the open space, spinning through the warped light of the mirrors fixed throughout the hall.
Damn it! Which one is he?
Batman suddenly looked to be everywhere at once, his dark form flying through the mirrored space of the illusions and suddenly multiplied 1,000-fold. Mirrors shattered from the rain of lead.
Julian Masters, it's a place to start.
Jillian Masters swung her 9mm automatic around just as Batman dropped his shoulder toward the cement platform. His tensed shoulder muscles translated into the exosuit, which tensed as well, buffering the impact as he rolled. His momentum carried him to his feet, and he struck her gun hand with the back of his forearm. The enhanced musculature packed such force that the weapon tore a long gash down the newswoman's hand. The slug from the assault rifle kicked off one of the metal stairs.
That's one, Aaron.
The other enthralled citizens continued to fire, but the maze was still in their way, throwing off their aim.
No more time.
Batman threw Masters to the ground next to one of the metal stairs and quickly dropped his knee down on her back as he reached for his utility belt. This strike was on the stairs only a few feet away.
That's two, Aaron. You may be better than I thought.
The Dark Knight pulled a long black strip of plastic from his belt. Grabbing Jillian's hands, he wrapped the plastic strip around both her wrists and the metal riser for the stairs. With a quick pull, Jillian was secured to the riser.
Trusty zip ties. Sometimes simple is best.
Batman no longer knelt where the cement was chipped by Aaron's third round. Aaron Petrov stood sweating on the platform. A single work light remained, shining down on his glistening hairless head.
You can't have them! They're mine! And you can't take them from me! You can't! You can't!
Aaron looked up.
Ah!
Batman stood up. Aaron Petrov was bound hand and feet beneath him.
Freeze!
Gordon was waiting for him, behind Batman. He was always a great shot. Somehow, Batman had always known that Gordon would be there when he died. But not today. Batman began to turn slowly.
I said freeze!
Calm down, Gordon. You're being played by Spellbinder.
Like hell! Spellbinder's tucked away in Arkham. I saw her there myself yesterday before you.
He was angry, in pain. What was he seeing? What had Moffat convinced him to see?
How could you? You bastard, you killed her!
Who? Who did I kill, Gordon?
You can't even remember her name. Barbara! My little Barbara, you put her in that wheelchair, and now you finished the job!
Think, Gordon. Joker put her there, remember? She's still alive, Jim.
I ought to just put you down right now!
But you won't. You'll take me in.
No! I'm gonna save this city a lot of trouble and expense.
You're a good cop, Gordon.
Batman moved ever so slowly, raising both hands.
You're going to take me in. You're going to see that justice is done.
Batman placed both hands behind his head. He closed his eyes.
Justice is blind.
Stepping forward, Gordon raised his weapon. The muzzle of the service revolver jabbed against the base of Batman's neck, below his fingers, at the base of his skull. No amount of armor, active or otherwise, would protect him at this range.
That's right, Batman. I am gonna see that justice is done. I am justice. You son of a gun!
The cape reached up, suddenly, not just for show anymore. The muzzle blast exploded in Batman's ear as he spun around on Gordon. The neurobionic interface was disrupted, and for a moment, Batman was truly blind as he opened his eyes. The cape was still affixed around the police commissioner's wrist, pulling him forward and into Batman's reach. Gordon lost his glasses, but the commissioner was fueled by rage, revenge, and despair. Gordon had nothing to lose in the death of his opponent. Batman had everything to lose. Batman secured him as he had the others, although perhaps not so tightly. He stood up and closed his eyes. The cowl was responding once more. The game was over.
I've done your bidding, Master. Everything exactly as you asked. Did it please you, Master?
Batman found her in a small room with a single high-back winged chair. She was seated before a shrine. On the shrine, a ventriloquist dummy stared at the intruder with dead glass eyes. Batman set his jaw. He knew the wooden doll too well to turn his back on him. He had been called Woody when he was first carved in Blackgate Penitentiary. The gallows had been dismantled after a botched execution in 1962, and a lifer by the name of Donegan had salvaged some of the wood to keep his hands busy. Donegan was a big fan of noir and gangster films, and managed to dress his puppet creation in a miniature gangster suit with wide pinstripes and lapels to match. As Blackgate became more crowded, Donegan and Woody were joined in his cell by a rather unlikely murderer, a usually timid man by the name of Arnold Wesker. Wesker tried to hang himself, but according to the prison psychiatrist reports at the time, was talked out of it by the dummy, who Wesker claimed had started speaking to him. Woody convinced Wesker to attempt an escape with him, using a tunnel that Donegan had abandoned digging the year before. Donegan agreed to help finish the tunnel for Wesker to use. However, when Donegan discovered that Wesker was planning to take Woody with him, Donegan became upset. He was happy and safe in his cell with Woody and wouldn't let him go. Wesker, under delusions that the mute dummy was actually goading him on, attacked Donegan in their cell with a corkscrew. His initial lunge missed Donegan but slashed Woody's face, leaving a long, ugly scar. Wesker killed Donegan and escaped with the dummy. The escaped lunatic and his puppet both took on new personas. Wesker became the ventriloquist, while Woody was billed as Scarface because of the irreparable gash left by the corkscrew. The ventriloquist turned out to be a terrible performer, mispronouncing all his B's and G's, but he always claimed that the advice of Scarface made him a criminal mastermind. Both eventually vanished into the dark underside of Gotham. Wesker eventually was killed by his own gang, but Scarface continued on as a strange icon among Gotham's shadow society. The dummy was said to have been cursed or possessed, and there were those in the criminal underworld who swore that it spoke to them, too. The dummy's eyes did seem to follow Batman as he walked around the chair. Faye Moffat sat staring blankly at the dummy.
You really are too kind, Scarboy. Thank you. Thank you.
Her eyes unfocused and her head lolled to one side in the chair. Spellbinder was spellbound?
Who hypnotizes a hypnotist?
Batman bound her wrists. She barely moved, let alone resisted. He slung her limp body over his shoulder and turned to leave.
So you think you solved another one, eh, Copper? You missed the mark, Flatfoot.
The dummy's mouth moved as it spoke, the dead eyes fixed on Batman.
Letting the big fish get away. I'm the brains of this operation, and you're just picking up the crumbs. But then, you never did see straight.
It was a device, audio player coupled to actuators. This whole thing was to deliver a message. But what was the message and who was it from?
Take your folks, for instance. Salt of the earth, saints of Gotham. So sad that some crazy punk gunned them down in Crime Alley. At least, that's the way they told it to you. A nice bedtime story so you could sleep at night in your nice warm bed in Bristol.
Batman froze. Whoever was behind this knew who he was.
But you're a big boy now, aren't you? You got new toys to play with. So maybe you don't need fairy tales anymore. Maybe you're big enough to see that all saints pay a price, and that their souls ain't always clean. I'm gonna throw a party, just for you. Will Mommy and Daddy let you come?
The dummy suddenly stopped moving. It was only then that Batman noticed the card held in the dummy's hand. He would take the dummy with him along with any of the audio equipment. It wouldn't do to have those words replayed during any subsequent police investigation. But first he reached down with his gloved hand and picked up the offered card. To his eye, it was a standard size, blank on the back, with a single line of text on the front.
You're invited.
Batcave, Wayne Manor, Bristol, 5:51 a.m., present day. Batman gripped the titanium frame of the Batmobile and tried to stand up. His legs shook under him, but held as he painfully rose out of the low-slung seat. He'd exhausted the capacitors for the Batsuit's power in Spellbinder's Funhouse, which was on Amusement Mile on the north shore of the Newtown district. Normally, he would have recharged the Batsuit during his return using the vehicle's onboard power, but it had been too short a trip from Newtown under the Kane Memorial Bridge and into Bristol. He slowly rose to his feet next to the car, tapping the release points at the base of his cowl in sequence. The smooth collar fitted to his neck loosened, and he pulled the cowl off. His dark hair exploded outwards at odd angles, sweat dripping down off his brow. The mask was off, and he was Bruce again, breathing a little harder than he would like, and staring down at the cowl in his hand as though it were a part of him removed. He reached up, rubbing the back of his gloved hand across the prominent stubble on his face. The new Batsuit worked well, but it could be improved.
It's not right. Not yet.
He looked back at the Batmobile. It was a name that the Gotham press had given his specialized vehicle when he had first appeared in one. It defied their classifications of standard transportation systems, and so they slapped a name on it that they could handle, the Batmobile. In truth, there had been many different Batmobiles at his disposal down through the years, some specialized and some made obsolete by the passage of time and technology. One of his favorites was a heavily converted 1955 Lincoln Futura. It had been his father's car originally, and Bruce had managed to salvage it from the junkyard just in time. He'd spent years working on the car. He never used it, but he liked the look. Most of the vehicles were more practical, designed for the specific requirements of the time, and nearly all were in a constant state of rebuild and upgrade. Many were easily recognizable as a Batmobile, their bodies sweeping into the ubiquitous sculpted and scalloped fins that somehow always made it into his designs. The models from the 1980s were muscular, built around jet engines or enormous power plants that screamed in the night. He had been younger then, and relished the power under his hands. As the Batmobiles evolved, they were becoming more subtle, if not less muscular, with stealth technologies incorporated into their brute strength. The current version was, as always, an improvement over the last. Gotham was largely an island, severed from the continent by the Gotham River. That meant there were only a handful of bridges connecting the boroughs of the city proper to the outside world, many of them a commuter's nightmare during drive time. Bruce flashed a rueful smile. The image of a Batmobile, black fins, menacing angles, and screaming engine crawling along the Tri-Gate Bridge while stuck in traffic was laughable. Justice must be swift, and sure, and final. So this particular incarnation of the Batmobile was a modification he knew as TS-8C. It had started from a military scout vehicle frame. He had married it to a modified aircraft power plant and a custom-engineered combined gearbox and differential. It normally ran on RP-1 kerosene rocket fuel, relatively common and easy to obtain. Keeping the sound dampened from the screaming high-torque engine had been a major problem. It was solved in part with a secondary electric drive system when distances away from the power conduits were short and stealth was required. There were also 4 sets of modified RCS rocket motors mounted on gimbals, each shrouded by the vehicle's shell and drawing on the same RP-1 rocket fuel used for the drive engine that could give him some control over the vehicle's attitude should it become airborne. There were also 4 downsized PAM-D solid rocket boosters fixed to the back of the frame in a cluster. He could use those one at a time in case he needed a significant push. The deployable weapons hardpoints were specifically designed to allow for different loadouts depending on what Batman considered to be required for the mission at the time. The cockpit had its own layer of passive armor, while the shell of the car used an active armor similar to his own batsuit, not only protecting the control, weapons, drive, and sensor systems, as well as the Caped Crusader himself, but also allowing the exterior shape of the vehicle to shift. It could find its own aerodynamically optimized shape at high speeds, or could modify its look at lower speeds simply to confuse his prey in the middle of pursuit. There were no windows in the vehicle at all, and no lights. The driver depended entirely on an array of cameras, radar, and sonar sensors to give him a picture of his surroundings. However, as the exterior surface could become alternately polished or dull from one plane to the next, it could impersonate the look of smoked glass found in more common vehicles, temporarily blending in with traffic when necessary. It did nominally look like a mobile, Bruce admitted. That too was something of an illusion, because the wheels on the vehicle were not solely designed to operate on streets. Bridges were choke points too easily cut off by civilian traffic or the misguided vigilance of the Gotham City Police Department. So for the last year, Gotham Power and Light had been upgrading, thanks to the influence of a number of Wayne Industries subcontractors, power, water, and sewer systems throughout the Gotham network. The real purpose had been to install rapid access points at key locations throughout the city, where the TS-8C could turn a corner and vanish from the street, the suspension shifting the wheel positions as the vehicle plunged down abandoned subway tunnels, utilities access conduits, or even main subway lines if traffic permitted. His favorite system involved a pair of rail clamps that could extend upward out of the front and rear of the vehicle and attach themselves around the specially designed power conduits that ran the length of each of the Gotham bridges. The variable suspension could then rise upward against the bottom of the bridge structure as though it were an upside-down road, allowing him to cross the river beneath the bridges unimpeded, while above him the snarled traffic contended with the occasional roadblock set to catch him. Bruce walked slowly to the test bench. It was set on the walkway that partially surrounded the turntable on which the car now rested. He set down his cowl and leaned against the bench. He looked down into the glossy surface, his reflection staring back at him. The face was still strong, but there were more lines in it than he remembered. Dusk to dawn, fall to spring. Did the wheel of the years turn, and he never noticed? There were no seasons in this cavern tomb where his soul resided. Did Gotham exist in an eternal, rain-soaked night, or did he only see it that way? Bruce turned around, leaning back against the bench. The Batmobile was resting in the center of the turntable. The original entrance to the cavern was flanked now by 6 dark tunnels, 4 black maws on the left and 2 more on the right that led away down into the forgotten veins beneath Gotham. Older models of his vehicles had once exited through the waterfall beyond the natural access, careening through the night-shrouded woods and onto the back roads of Bristol Township, with the forbidding silhouette of the city just beyond the riverbanks, calling him back toward Crime Alley, calling him on to the chase once more. He used to relish driving through the cleansing water of the falls, a ritual baptism that sanctified his quest.
Time changes everything. Time changes nothing.
Master Bruce?
Bruce closed his eyes, considering for a moment whether he would simply not answer.
On the vehicle platform, Alfred. This version of the TSA performed well tonight.
It should, considering what the components cost. Mr. Fox wanted me to mention that there may have been some cost overruns.
Don't sweat the ledger, Alfred. It's not in your job description.
My job description, as you put it, has always been a bit nebulous.
He was a tall, slender man with an anachronistic thin mustache and a mane of white hair combed straight back. Alfred Pennyworth moved in his exquisitely tailored charcoal pinstripe suit with an agile confidence that belied his years. Despite his upper-crust accent, he'd been largely raised on the Wayne estate and only visited London occasionally. His father, Jarvis Pennyworth, had been the family retainer, as such men were so quaintly called, during the time of Bruce's grandfather. The accent, it seemed, came with the family business. To Bruce, the Pennyworths had simply come with the house, like the grounds or the furniture. They had always been there, although Alfred had become the only breathing link to Bruce's own past, the only family that he knew. Family relationships can be complicated.
What is it, Alfred? Why are you bothering me?
There are matters that require your attention, Master Bruce, and
Don't call me that!
But, sir, I've always...
Just how old do I look to you?
We both know your age well enough, sir. And you will be yet another year older this coming February 19th.
I'm the president of the largest multinational corporation based in the United States, and you still talk to me like I'm wearing short pants. You would never have talked to my father this way.
You are not your father, sir.
So you never fail to remind me. I don't suppose you've come this far below your station just to polish the brass?
No, sir. As you so eloquently put it yourself, you are the head of the largest multinational corporation in the United States. Although perhaps not for long.
Bruce stepped around the platform, drawing the fuel nozzle out of its cradle, the hose slinking along behind it toward the vehicle. He touched the pattern on the surface of the car, and the fuel cap enclosure opened, where the surface had previously appeared seamless.
Is it the board of directors again? Are they singing that old song about ousting me?
No, sir. Well, yes, sir, but this time the pressure is coming from the Securities and Exchange Commission. You remember the scandal involving Tri-State Home and Hearth?
Bruce leaned back against the side of the vehicle, feeling its malleable surface give slightly under his weight as he crossed his arms.
You'd think that with all this power and the butler standing at hand, I wouldn't have to pump my own gas, wouldn't you?
Sir, if you would please just concentrate for a few moments.
Yes, I remember Tri-State. It was the mortgage holding division of our finance side. They were the ones who issued all those subprime loans. Carl Rising was the CEO, and together with the CFO, Ward Olivier, they approved that policy against our corporate directives.
Alfred raised an eyebrow.
I don't just wear the cape, Alfred.
Bruce pulled the nozzle from the car, sealing the opening again. He placed the fuel line back in place.
We cleaned up Tri-State and kept their doors open. I fired both Rising and Olivier, and as I recall, both of them are under federal indictment.
Yes, but the SEC isn't satisfied with them. They've approached both Federal Trade and the Department of Justice to come after Wayne Enterprises under the Sherman Act.
Antitrust? Really?
They're also talking about RICO, sir.
Racketeering? They can't be serious.
Sir, they are looking for an excuse, any excuse, to take apart Wayne Enterprises.
Alfred tugged at his collar.
And with public sentiment running against big business, and all the negative publicity that we've had about Tri-State...
Alfred, that's your job.
Bruce released the seals on his gloves and pulled them off.
We all have a job to do.
He reached back into the vehicle and pulled out the Scarface dummy.
Yours is to be my public relations director and personal assistant. Those were the titles that I gave you with the raise. You seemed pleased enough at the time, remember?
Yes, sir, I remember it well. Although I do still seem to be making your meals and dusting the banister.
Exactly.
Bruce held up the horrific gangster dummy with a card attached to its hand as he walked past Alfred up toward the main investigation platform.
I, on the other hand, have to do my job and fathom why the spellbinder was herself spellbound by the ventriloquist Scarface dummy. And the meaning of this strange invitation.
I have one as well, sir.
What? What are you talking about?
Bruce set the dummy down on the testing bench.
This invitation.
Alfred pulled an identical card out of the breast pocket of his jacket.
Where did you get that?
Where did anyone get them? Everyone in Gotham and the surrounding municipalities received one today. It's taken over the news reports.
Everyone?
Bruce moved to the batsuit locker, pressing the release points on the new batsuit as he moved. The arm's exomusculature released from the attachment points at the shoulders, unsealed, and pulled free down both arms. The shoulder segment released next from the torso manifold, taking the cape with it over his head. He quickly placed each in its supporting rack position.
They say there was a computer error at the Gotham Powerball lottery offices that generated the mailing of these defective cards to everyone in the city. There is one on the foyer mail table addressed to you as well.
That's no computer error.
Bruce sat down on the bench next to the locker, releasing his boots and then pulling them free. The utility belt, a power supply for the batsuit, he set into the charging station built into the locker.
It's a cover story, and a rather hastily baked one at that.
Still wearing the long microtube garment that kept him cool beneath the powered armor, he stepped back to consider his latest incarnation of the batsuit. It was a good design, not perfect. It would be better next time.
Master Bruce.
Bruce reached over and snatched the invitation out of Alfred's hand.
I've got work to do, Alfred. That will be all.
Of course, sir.
There was a secured elevator that would take Alfred up to the manor, but not until after another two-story climb up the stairs into the darkness of the cavern.
Will you be expecting breakfast?
Bruce sat down on a stool at the lab bench and switched on the light of his large magnifying glass. He turned the card over and over beneath it. The card appeared to be common except for the printing. There was something strange about the ink. Bruce looked up.
Alfred, did you say something?
Just asking if you wanted your breakfast, sir.
Yes, I would. Thank you, Alfred.
Alfred nodded. Bruce tried to look closer at the card, but was suddenly distracted by a smell that connected in his memory. It was a warm, musty smell of autumn leaves and green grass. It reminded him of laughter.
Alfred?
Yes, sir?
What's it like outside?
Alfred looked down on the circle of dim light illuminating Bruce, alone in the midst of the cavern.
It is the promise of a beautiful day, Master. It is a beautiful day, sir. Indian summer, I believe they call it. The storm has cleared off to the east. We were expecting slightly warmer temperatures under clearing skies. Breezy, cool, but pleasant.
Pleasant.
A sunny day in Gotham. No, Bruce thought, there was no such thing. Gotham was a never-ending night. Gotham was a rain that never healed, never cleaned. Gotham was dirt and decay and rot that festered, a disease for which he alone was the cure. He alone stood between the great abyss and justice for those who called the darkness home. The darkness was Gotham. The darkness was his world.
Will there be anything else, sir?
Bruce looked up. The smell of leaves. The sound of laughter.
You can call me Master Bruce, Alfred. It's all right. If you like.
Very well, Master Bruce.
Bruce Wayne continued to hold the card in his hand, but his eyes were fixed on the exit from the cave, the sound of the falling waters, and the smell of a bright autumn day. Bruce Wayne, playboy of Gotham with inexhaustible wealth, had become the Howard Hughes of the new century. For more than a decade, he had disappeared from public life. National news commentators collected their appearance fees by filling in the gaping blanks in the meaning of his absence by tracing his disappearance to September 11th, 2001. Local newscasters, on the other hand, would annually and at regular intervals fill a little more airtime by pulling out the file footage on his parents' violent deaths, lately with computer-generated reenactments of the murders, and trace the reclusive peculiarities to these understandable roots. Articles in the financial section of the Gotham Globe sold their papers with the claim that the Wayne heirs' mental aberrations were rooted in the mid-1990s and the rise of neoliberalism. Their competition, the Gotham Gazette, took a completely different point of view, insisting the underlying causes that had unhinged him were to be found in the economic explosiveness of a 1980s marketplace released from the restraints of ethics or social conscience. Several biographies, each unauthorized and always the subject of a perfunctory lawsuit, insisted it was a former lover, either female or male, who had jilted the unbalanced Wayne. The public, it seemed, was ravenous for any lurid ink regarding the Prince of Gotham, and was willing to pay tabloid and paperback prices to read it. Each one promised to spotlight a new damsel in distress or hooker with a heart of gold. Their identities were always known only to the author, who was only willing to divulge the secret to anyone willing to purchase his book, pad his royalties, and wade through the shocking, fictional details. They knew absolutely nothing about Bruce, but that was not permissible for the media maw that had to be fed, and so they filled the silence with their own wild imaginings and sold all the more airtime, newspapers, books, and blogs in the process. They would have all been outraged, however, to know the truth, that Bruce reveled in it. It all added to the mystery and never approached the truth, an even better cover than before. The connection to Hughes was an obvious one and only needed a little push. Alfred was promoted from gentleman's gentleman to press agent and public relations manager at about that same time. Alfred Pennyworth became the face the media associated with Bruce Wayne whenever anyone came calling or needed a statement. Bruce even reveled in the game, appearing from time to time in a latex mask he had fashioned for himself, hunching over in a wheelchair and wearing large dark glasses, a wide-brimmed Panama hat, and an Afghan draped around his shoulders. He had forced Alfred to push him around the East Gardens in the costume at random intervals, until one of the paparazzi showed up on the grounds and managed to snap a slightly out-of-focus image of the two of them going for a stroll. The security sensors placed throughout the grounds of Wayne Manor had alerted Bruce to the intruder's presence long before the paparazzo saw them. Still, the picture had become the iconic image of Bruce Wayne the recluse, an incredibly wealthy but broken man. Now maybe they would leave him to his work. It had been a wonderful dream, but Bruce discovered that there is nothing so public as being too private. In time, however, Bruce Wayne faded from interest, only to become a mythic figure whose image had been so reshaped that no one knew any longer what the real Bruce Wayne even looked like. Wayne Estate Grounds, Bristol, 6:32 a.m., present day. As he climbed from the ravine, multi-billionaire Bruce Wayne wore a cloth canvas jacket, a flat cap on his head. His face was covered in rough stubble. The eyes squinted in the bright clear morning as he moved from shade to dappled shade beneath the forest of trees. He made no effort to walk with stealth, an unaccustomed luxury. The great lawn was across the slope. His father used to host enormous gatherings on that lawn behind the manor. But that was a long time ago. Now, the magnificent view down toward the north branch of the Gotham River and across the waters to the unique skyline of Gotham itself remained unappreciated. There would be no music. No laughter would disturb a single blade of grass. It would make a fine cemetery. He needed to think. He'd been scanning the invitation card when suddenly, in the darkness of the caverns, his memory had taken him back to a different time. His mother enjoyed planning the lawn parties more than all other events. She said the desired result was inevitable if the event was properly arranged. She never could think in the house. She always had to go somewhere she could clear her mind, clear her soul. Bruce turned down the slope, away from the lawn, just visible through the trees. He hadn't thought of his mother's garden in more than a decade. Dead and rotting leaves from unnumbered seasons obscured the old path. Bruce stopped, cocking his head to one side. The wall was almost completely obscured by tall brush and vines, still full of foliage, despite the lateness of the year. He might have missed it altogether except for the fact that the doorway had been completely cleared of brush. The door was weathered and showed only the slightest vestiges of the emerald paint his mother had chosen for it so long ago, but it was free of any debris. He had half wondered if the succession of gardeners down the long years had forgotten its existence as he had. It would seem the garden had been tended after all.
If you need to think something through, Bruce, you had best find someplace pleasant.
Bruce reached for the keys in his jacket, pulling out a large, tarnished padlock key and stepping to the door.
What?
The lock was open, the door slightly ajar. Bruce froze, his senses heightened. Singing. Someone was singing in his mother's garden. Bruce knew that song, remembered that song. Bruce slowly put the key back in his jacket pocket. He reached forward with his left hand, pressing it against the door gently, and testing its resistance. It moved with surprising ease. A woman sat, with her back toward the door. The woman's hair was a platinum blonde. Her hair was a platinum blonde. She'd always adored Kim Novak, changing her own dark hair to imitate Novak's look. She wore a camel hair coat with a high collar turned up at the back. Bruce could still hear his father's voice.
Martha, that coat looks stunning on you.
She never wore another coat after that. She sang that to him. As early as Bruce could, Bruce lunged forward, hauling her to her feet in front of him.
Who are you? What the hell are you doing here?
Her skin startled Bruce at first. Her face was a creamy alabaster that registered in his mind as being almost ghost-like in its pale complexion. She may have been in her mid-30s, yet her face had a quality of timeless beauty that made placing her age difficult. Her eyes were large and gray, but as he looked into them, they were unfocused and slightly dilated. Her nose had a slight upturn, with an almost imperceptible dimple at the end, and her eyebrows had been carefully plucked. Her hair was long, but pulled back into a tight bun. She was beautiful and elegant, but in a way that was completely out of fashion with the times.
Please, help me.
What?
You're hurting me.
Yes, I am. Who are you?
I don't... Please, help me find him.
Help you find who?
Her eyes suddenly focused on him with a bright intensity.
Bruce.
What? I've never met...
I told you I have to find Bruce. Please, he's lost. He's lost and he's frightened and I have to bring him home. Whoever you are, can you help me?
Bruce slightly relaxed his grip on her shoulders.
You don't know who I am?
Well, how could I? We just met.
I'm Gerald Grayson. I'm the gamekeeper here.
She looked around as if for the first time.
Here? Where am I?
You don't know?
She flushed slightly.
No, I really don't know how I got here.
Well, here is somewhere you're not supposed to be. You're trespassing.
Bruce let go of her shoulders and hooked his thumbs through the loops of his jeans.
Old Hermit Wayne wouldn't appreciate you coming in unannounced.
Bruce, you mean? I need to find him. Warn him.
I see him now and then. I could get your message to him.
Thank you, but could you just show me the way out?
Bruce considered for a moment how she possibly could have gotten in. The number of alarm and surveillance systems in place, not just on the perimeter but within the grounds, including seismic sensors, should have made it impossible for anyone to pass around the estate unnoticed. Indeed, while Bruce had engineered the system himself, he had more recently come to feel he was a prisoner in a cage of his own design. The once comforting thought of being able to track anyone on the grounds had eroded over time, until Bruce felt he was constantly being watched by Alfred. Things had been slowly changing between them in recent years. Alfred's elevation in title and position within the company had been necessary, but strained the tightrope balance of their relationship. Bruce had begun to feel vaguely unsettled in Alfred's presence. Alfred was deferential and efficient as always, but now there was something irritating about the uncanny perfection of his former butler's service to him that made Bruce want some space in his life where Alfred couldn't reach, something the security of the manor, the grounds, and even the caverns under it could not afford him. But Bruce's jacket had something in its lining that would facilitate the solution, a low-yield bypass transmitter sewn in just for such occasions. If he wanted to wander the grounds without Alfred knowing where he was, he had to be a ghost to his own surveillance systems. As long as this woman stayed within 5 feet of him, he should be able to get her off the grounds without tripping any of the multiple alarms. And maybe then he could discover how she managed to get into there in the first place.
If I may escort you?
Bruce extended his crooked arm. She smiled as she slipped her elegant long hand through it.
My knight in shining armor. So you're a gamekeeper?
They strolled out of the walled garden and further down the slope. She arched her right eyebrow even further.
Do they still have those, Mr. Grayson?
With his left hand in his jacket pocket, he fingered the invitation card. The card mystery, now the woman mystery. He wanted to come to the garden to... Why did he come to the garden?
They do. Here they do. And you still haven't told me your name.
Richter. Amanda Richter.
Well, Miss Richter, I'll see you to the servants' gatehouse. It's at the bottom of the hill, and we can call for a cab from the guard's room there.
Won't the guard mind us intruding on him there?
No guard.
They'd already passed over more than 100 different automated alarm and intruder response systems.
Still, I wouldn't advise you coming back for another try over the fence.
Is that how I got in? Climbed over the fence in my designer jacket and tailored suit?
Well, if you did, I'm sorry I wasn't there to see it. Here's the gatehouse.
They were at the base of the enormous slope of the back lawn. The 12-foot-tall stone fence emerged from the woods to their left and extended across the back of the property and into the woods on the far side of the lawn. The line was broken only by the gatehouse and the wide iron gate next to it, thwarting the road that wound up the edge of the woods toward the manor, which was nearly 2 miles distant at the top of the rise to the north. If Amanda heard the door unlock at their approach, she didn't show it. Bruce showed her through the gatehouse and out the other side. He placed the call for the cab in the guardhouse and then stepped out to where she was standing next to the road.
They say they'll be here in about 10 minutes. Must be a gathering of the upper crust somewhere in Bristol tonight, if the cabs are that close.
Thank you. But I really must see Bruce, Mr. Grayson.
Call me Jerry.
Jerry, then. Isn't there any way that I can...
Well, you can ask.
It had been such a long time since Bruce had had to flash his charming smile. He leaned against the gatehouse, folded his arms, and nodded toward the intercom mounted next to the gate. Amanda gave him a thanks-for-nothing smile and stepped up to the intercom. She jabbed the button with a long, elegant finger.
Yes?
Alfred was probably wondering why he didn't get any proximity alarms at her approach.
I am here to see Bruce Wayne.
Mr. Wayne is not taking callers.
I have a message for him. A very important message.
I shall be delighted to take the message, madam. From whom, may I say, the message comes?
It's from me, Amanda Richter.
Could you give that name again?
Yes. I'm Amanda Richter.
Miss Richter, please stay where you are. I'll be down directly.
Bruce continued to smile, but there was definitely something wrong. Alfred had strict orders never to greet anyone on the property nor allow them in, unless they'd been cleared by him personally. There were no exceptions.
Looks like you won't be needing that cab after all.
I suppose not, Mr. Grayson.
Oh, and I shouldn't have let you out through the gatehouse. If the butler catches me here, there'll be hell to pay. I could lose my job.
I promise not to say a thing.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure, Amanda.
Thank you, Jerry.
Bruce turned and stepped back through the gatehouse with studied casualness. He stepped back onto the grounds out the other side, registering the sound of the locks on the door snapping closed automatically behind him. Amanda was now properly locked outside his domain, though he still didn't know how she'd managed to get into the grounds in the first place. Moreover, there was the question of Alfred. Alfred had been with him from the beginning. Every relationship has its strains. He and Alfred had been through it all together for as long as Bruce could remember. Sometimes it was easy, and sometimes it was hard. Of late, the warm relationship between the retainer and his master had cooled somewhat, and the silences between them had lengthened. Even so, Bruce believed Alfred Pennyworth had been steadfastly honest in his service. But now, Alfred was reacting contrary to Bruce's direct orders because of a woman he obviously knew, one who somehow had managed to slip undetected onto the grounds. Bruce recalled what his mother had said so often.
They're all just pieces to the puzzle, Bruce. Just put together the ones that make sense, and the rest will follow in time.
Bruce moved quickly back toward the ravine. He could hear the Bentley approaching from the manor, no doubt with Alfred behind the wheel, and wanted to be out of sight before it arrived. Bruce settled down into the massive chair in front of his research console. The air in the Batcave felt oppressive now compared with the morning outside, but it was also familiar and somehow comforting after the strange encounter he had on the grounds. He pulled the card out from the pocket of his jacket and set it down in front of him. Then he pulled on the gloves of the virtual interface. The array of screens awoke in front of him, and he started pulling data out of the air with his hands. It shifted in the space in front of him as he examined it. The first was the card itself. He pulled the chemical analysis of the card in the printing, which displayed in a cascade to his left. The laminate coat over the cards was actually a bonded protein complex, permeable and releasing its bond under heat. It was an unusual substance for a card laminate, and understanding its properties would take some additional consideration. He let the sequencer continue chewing on that one while he moved on. The paper itself was a plastic derivative rather than actual paper. The grain was a fine embossed simulation of the feel of paper down to a very fine surface level, and a comparison of the card he had pulled from the Scarface dummy with the one he took from Alfred showed their texture patterns were identical down to microscopic levels.
That's an unusual amount of effort for an invitation. Fine detail.
He pulled the high-resolution optical scans of the cards to examine the printing side by side, looking for variations in the ink. There were none. No bleeding, print smudges, or blur variations one might expect in a mass production press run. The printing was identical, right down to the highest magnification of the
highest magnification?
He pushed the scan in as far as the magnification would go. The ink was not contiguous. It was a halftone imaging at the most minuscule microprinting scale he had ever encountered. Each of the letters was made up of a series of spaced dots. Not only were there distinct dots, but the dots appeared to be the same size in each case. And not only that,
they don't vary at all. The spacing is entirely uniform. It's a digital stream. It's data.
He pushed the chemical analysis aside and pulled down a graphic parser module, coupling it to the cryptography node. The parser would scan the microimage into a data stream, and then the cryptographic software would process it, searching for recognizable patterns. The graphic parsing would be almost instantaneous, but the cryptographic node could take days to chew through the data before coming up with possible recognizable patterns. Bruce set up the parameters, started the program run, stripped off the gloves, and spun around in his chair. The display was flashing, run complete.
Already? I must have made a mistake in the comparison loop sequence.
He pulled the gloves back on in annoyance. He reached for the image, tapped it, and waited for the garbage data to display so he could push it into the trash.
What the hell?
Bruce stared at the display. It was a congruous PDF file.
It can't be that simple.
His eyes narrowing, Bruce reached forward and tapped on the file to open it. Gotham City Police Department, case number VR0104051689, investigating officer, Detective J. Gordon, Vice and Racketeering Division, June 28, 1974.
2 days after my parents died.
2 days after he died with them. Bruce leaned forward, reading the fuzzy type on the digital page floating in front of him.
Telephone tip received from one Marion Richter, 1429 Pearl Street, Upper West Side, regarding Wayne killing. Partner Detective T. Holloway and I conducted the interview in Richter's apartment at 10:36 a.m. Richter asserted that the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne had been contract killing, motivated by Thomas Wayne's alleged business with her father, Dr. Ernst Richter, deceased. She further claimed Thomas Wayne had ties to the Moxon mob and had been conspiring with them over several decades. She presented 6 of her father's bound journals and evidence, as well as a number of contracts and papers that appear to have been signed by both Wayne and her father. She also included a number of bank deposits and account statements indicating when payments to her father and after his death to her and her young sister Amanda had been made by Thomas Wayne through the intermediary of the Wayne House managers Jarvis Pennyworth and subsequently his son Alfred Pennyworth. These items were cataloged by Holloway and accepted.
Bruce sat back in his chair, his frown deepening. No wonder, then, that Alfred came down to the gatehouse to see to Amanda Richter personally.
But I've never heard of these Richters before, and certainly not in conjunction with my parents' deaths. Why didn't Alfred tell me about this?
Miss Richter further stated that according to her father's journals, Thomas Wayne also kept extensive journals of his own that could corroborate her testimony. We concluded the interview with Marion Richter at 11:46 a.m. We then proceeded to Wayne Manor and Bristol with the intention of interviewing Alfred Pennyworth regarding the payments made to the Richters and the alleged journals. Mr. Pennyworth consented to the interview, which we conducted in the library at Wayne Manor. Pennyworth acknowledges knowing the Richters and conveying financial assistance to the Richters at the behest of his employer, Thomas Wayne. He denied the existence of journals by Thomas Wayne in any form, electronic or otherwise. Search warrant filed pending. He further denies any association between the Moxon mob and the...
The typewriter text ended at the bottom of the page. Bruce stretched his hand out to flip to the next page. Nothing happened. He looked at the lower right corner of the displayed page. It read 1 of 14. He quickly checked the file size. The single page was all the data that existed in the microprint on the card. Bruce cross-referenced the case file number against the Police Evidence Archives database. The file referred to in the document was missing from the archives. Bruce pressed his hands together, his forefingers tented in front of his pursed lips. He reached forward to the intercom switch on the console.
Alfred?
Yes, Master Bruce.
You mentioned something about breakfast earlier, and I feel like we should talk.
Of course, sir.
I'll be right up then.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I apologize that your meal will be ready a few minutes later than I had anticipated. I fear I am required to run to the market for some fresh cilantro. It shall be another hour, sir.
Cilantro? In an hour?
Oh, that's quite all right, Alfred. I'm more of a brunch man myself. By the way, was there someone at the back gate just now?
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of.
I just thought I heard the proximity alarm is all.
No, sir. Perhaps a malfunction. I shall look into it at once.
Of course. Let me know when breakfast is served.
A dark shadow covered Bruce's face as he again sat back in his chair. The evidence file was missing. 13 pages of Gordon's report were missing. Alfred was lying to him about Amanda Richter. His parents' lives were missing, and now the why behind their deaths was missing too. Reluctantly, Bruce reached forward and spun the display down to a file he had long ago closed. BC 001-0001. Wayne, Thomas and Martha.